Hey there everybody, Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Classic Album War. Today we're going to look at two West Coast bands that released two pretty stellar debuts in the mid to late 70s. Alright, talking about the self-titled from Ambrosia. I know some of you might be saying, well, that's not the album cover I remember. This is the Japanese import. And then the self-titled debut from Aviary. All right, if you are following us on our Facebook page, we actually have a poll up there right now that's pitting these two against each other. So go ahead on there and vote, all right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of analyze both of these and give you my favorite of two. But before I do that, I want to just kind of do a little rant here for a second. So I want to make sure everybody kind of understands the purpose behind this Classic Album War show, all right? Now, I'm picking albums from, in the most part, some pretty notable bands, okay, who maybe have a selection of essential albums or top albums, great albums, classic albums, whatever you want to call it. Classic Album War is a great title for the show, but let's just keep in mind that a lot of these bands that I'm covering have pretty essential albums. So what I'm doing here is I'm picking like a top album from each band. I'm not over-analyzing perfect matchups. I'm not going at times. Sometimes I'm not going for the albums that sold the most or was their biggest concept album or had the most hits and all that kind of stuff and perfectly matching it up with a band that's exactly the same and all that kind of stuff. I'm getting like a handful of comments from people here and there. They're like, oh, but King Crimson is so different than Genesis, and yes, you know, you can't compare them to Pink Floyd because Pink Floyd had bigger hits. It was a bigger selling album, blah, blah, blah. All right, that's not the point of this. I'm not trying to find exact perfect matchups, people. Let's just have fun with this. Stop reading too much into this, all right? I'm picking two bands, in most cases from the same era, all right? In most cases from the same genre. Yeah, none of these bands sound the same. I mean, you know, how are you going to find a perfect match for like a Van de Graaff Generator or a Gentle Giant? All right, I put them up against each other, but neither one of them sounds like any other band out there, right? So, you know, some of you, oh, but, you know, 2112 isn't even Rush's best album. I know that, but it's one of their best, right? So I'm going to do a lot of these over the course of the next few months. Some of you are going to see your favorites come up. Some of you are going to see your favorites up against bands that you may not think are as good or albums you may not think are as good. It's not the point here. The point is just to have fun, pick two great albums from two great bands, whether they're exactly the same type of band or not, and just talk about each. Just, you know what, here's a great way to kind of figure out, to kind of like decipher this and put it into perspective. Think of us at a bar, at a brewery, sharing a beer, talking about music, and the topic of two albums come up. And we're talking about each one, dissecting the songs, the impact that they had. Maybe they had some hits, maybe they weren't, whatever. And then saying which one's our favorite of the two and why. That's all we're doing here. It's just like a conversation between friends. This is not an analysis, okay, of the musical competencies of each and which one is more worthy than the other based on my opinion. It's just my opinion, all right? I'm going to talk about each album, okay, describe some of the things about them, some of the songs, you know, whatever little anecdotes I can throw in, and tell you which one I like better. But in every case, all right, I am always going to pick two albums that I like or love a lot, okay? So these choices are not easy for me. And this is not definitive, you know, this is better than that type of thing. Well, everybody's, you know, opinions are different. Everybody has a different set of ears. Everybody's mileage varies differently. So if you don't like one of my choices for the winner, it really doesn't matter. You arguing with me over why you think the other one is better is pointless, all right? Because it's all in the eye of the beholder, the ear of the beholder, all right? But then all these albums are great, all right? No one's bashing anything. No one, it's just, so guys, chill, relax. Just enjoy these for what they are, all right? Okay, rant over. All right, so let's get back to this. So 1975, first album from California's Ambrosia. Okay, these guys were basically kind of similar career trajectory, although not as long-standing as Toto. You had a bunch of really seasoned studio musicians kind of got together, put together a band. They had a real love for classic pop rock as well as like British progressive rock. So you had their first album, which had a couple minor hits. You know, you had Nice, Nice, Very Nice was kind of a minor hit. What was the other one on here? Holding On to Yesterday, kind of a minor hit, all right? But still kind of proggy. A lot of good keyboards, piano. The vocals are great, tight guitar work. A lot of great melodies. But more importantly, you had like this album and their second album, Somewhere I've Never Traveled, probably the most proggy albums in their catalog. They went on to have some big hits, all right, and big albums. You know, How Much I Feel, You're the Biggest Part of Me, really big top 20 hits for the band later on. But, you know, you got Time Waits for No One, you got World Leave Me Alone, but then like at the back end of the album, you have Mama Frog and Drink of Water, okay? Both of which, you know, you can't deny the influence of Gentle Giant in a lot of bands in the 70s, whether a lot of people came out and said it, but, you know, every now and then you start to hear little bits of influence from that band. And those last two songs I mentioned, you can hear some Gentle Giant, all right, in the arrangements, the quirky nature of the way they put together the vocal passages. Really interesting stuff. And for a lot of people, probably wish they would have continued on that kind of style. But, you know, Ambrosia had kind of a couple different phases in their career, as short as it was as far as, you know, recorded output. We're going, you know, 75 to, the early 80s, and then they were done. First two albums, kind of proggy, but still plenty of pop, right? Third album, a lot of pop. Fourth album, more of like hard rock, but still pop. So they really kind of morphed very quickly, and then they were done. But this is a great debut, a really good album. If you haven't listened to this album, if all you ever heard about Ambrosia were those couple hits, you need to go check this album out and the second album. Quite good, and excellent production. Because, of course, you know, Alan Parsons was involved, because these guys were involved with him and his band as well. So the other album, so we're going to go ahead a couple years to 1979 from, I believe they're from Seattle or the Washington area, Aviary. Okay, led by vocalist and pianist extraordinaire Brad Love. So here, music a little different. Still kind of combining pop and progressive rock and rock, kind of in a way that was described. There's a bunch of bands that can be lumped into the pomp rock category. What exactly is pomp rock? We should do a whole show on that. You know, pomp kind of like art rock, but pomp, a lot of the bands that are considered pomp combine like a theatricality, a grandioseness, a bombasticness to their sound, whether it be from the vocals or the musicianship and the songwriting structure. And I think we could thank Queen for kind of starting that whole movement, because that was kind of the band that really took that kind of idea of pomp rock to a new level. So Aviary influences big time from Queen. When I listen to Aviary, you know, soaring vocal harmonies, a lot of multi-part vocal harmonies, okay, really cool guitar work, piano and Moog synthesizers. I don't know why I always want to say Moog. It's so easy to say that. In fact, I think the keyboard player here used the Mini Moog, Mellotron, all that good stuff. Electric pianos, Hammond, a lot of cool keyboards, very quirky arrangements. The tunes are ultimately really catchy. Queen, 10cc, City Boy, ELO, and a hint of Gentle Giant as well. You listen to a couple tracks on here, like track number 9, Maple Hall, man. I listened to that, I'm like, wow, they were listening to the Gentle Giant too, man. It's like little quirky arrangements, all right? Little really intricate kind of unison playing and stuff like that. But more importantly, you get like just addicting songs like Soaring, Anthem for the USA. Soaring is such an awesome song. Puddles is great, as close as you can get. What else? Feel the Heart, Average Boy. Again, the City Boy, 10cc Queen influence is uncanny here. And Brad Love's vocals are over the top, very theatrical. If you love Freddie Mercury, you'll totally dig this guy. So this was to be until many years later, the one and only, and they were signed to a major label, the one and only release from Aviary. But 30 years later, they released the unreleased recordings that they put together after this album, which is also really good too. You should check that out. Like I said, Ambrosia kind of hung around for a few years, made it pretty big shortly thereafter this, and then they kind of faded away. Though they've been touring fairly regularly over the years, but they haven't released a new studio album in a long time. So which one do I like better? Well, I love both of these albums a lot. This is pretty much a really even matchup, okay? There might be days I'll pick this one. There might be days I'll pick this one. But I think that I have been a fan longer of this one right here. And I think just maybe the overall impact of this album just ekes out this one. I think that this one is a little more original. You know, Aviary, as great as this is, influences all over the place, but this is close. All right, so I'm going to give Ambrosia's self-titled debut a narrow win over Aviary's. This is a split decision, folks. 115, 114 by 1 point to Ambrosia. All right, you heard it here first. So, but if you're someone who hasn't heard either one of these albums, you need to. Go here on YouTube, shut my channel down, go on YouTube and search for Ambrosia's self-titled 1975 and then search for Aviary's self-titled 1979. I think you'll dig it. Like if you like any of the bands I mentioned before, I mean, a great mix of pop and progressive rock on both of these. Can't go wrong. All right? So, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're on the mighty YouTube often. More classic album war tomorrow. All right? And coming up, moments away, top 10 songs with Tesla. Check it out. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.